Hey gang, I got an offer for you today from LinkedIn. As business to business marketers, your needs are unique. B2B buying cycles are long and your customers face incredibly complex decisions. Isn't it time you had a marketing platform built specifically for you? LinkedIn ads empower marketers with solutions for you and your customers. LinkedIn ads allow you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. On LinkedIn, you have direct access to build relationships with decision makers. Of the 875 million users on the network, 180 million are senior level executives. 10 million are C-level executives. You will also be able to drive results with targeting and measuring with their tools built specifically for B2B. And best of all, they work. Audiences exposed to brand messages on LinkedIn are 6 times more likely to convert. LinkedIn ads also rank number one for security, community, and ad experience as part of the Business Insider's Digital Trust Study. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get a $100 credit. It's a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/MPN to claim your credit. It's linkedin.com/MPN. Terms and conditions apply. Entrepreneurs Enigma is a podcast for the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. It's about the wins and the fails that we all face being entrepreneurs, and how we learn from adversity. Every week I talk to a different entrepreneur with a story to tell. I'm Seth Goldstein. Come with me on the journey. This is Entrepreneurs Enigma. Let's get started. On today's show, we have Joe Henderson of Success Start and OnVector. Joe has been in the Philadelphia startup ecosystem for more than 30 years. Over these 3 decades, he's helped more than 50 startups get founded, develop their MVPs, get funded, and grow. OnVector is Joe's other endeavor. OnVector gets rid of the hardest to destroy grime, and as he calls it, nasties, from the water to make it completely drinkable. It is really cool technology. Joe resides in the western suburbs with his family and is very active in the startup community in the area. Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Entrepreneurs Enigma podcast. Today I am with Joe Henderson. Joe has been in the startup ecosystem, I think, for more years than he wants to actually.
30 years.
30 years.
30
I mean, that's
years.
before I think startups were cool. Wait, 30 years, was that the first bubble?
That was 91.
That's before the first bubble. So it was before startups were cool.
Yes.
It
Yes,
starts
it
were
was.
cool in 2000. Then they were kind of for the early aughts, and then in 2010, 2011, 2012, they kind of became something again, and we're back into whatever the hell you want to call this thing.
Well, I mean, literally, the roller coaster was the dot-com run-up, the dot-com crash, 9/11,
Oh God, yeah.
and then the long nuclear winter after that, and then the banking crash in 2008.
When I
So,
started my business, that's when I started my
yes.
business in 2008, end of 2007. Best time to start a business.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's terrible. But
Yeah,
hey, you guys start sometime.
sure.
What did you do before being an entrepreneur? Did you do anything before being an entrepreneur, or was it college to being an entrepreneur?
No, I started as a computer programmer out of Drexel and spent 7 years at DuPont and Boeing, and realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur because stepping up the corporate ladder with thousands of people above me is never going to work. And I don't have the patience. So I had no entrepreneurial skills at the time. So I started attending the Entrepreneurs Forum of Philadelphia in the early 90s and just started talking to everybody I could talk to learn how to act like a CEO and raise money and hire people and all the other stuff that goes into starting a business. But still, at the end of the day, I still didn't have a good idea for a business. So I said, well, I'm going to be a strong number two. I'm going to help my friends succeed in their little startup ventures. And that's what I've been doing for 30 years is standing beside and behind someone that has a good idea and, lifting them up. That's
That's
what I've been doing.
awesome. So
Yeah,
being like this, the CEO, what we call that, like the chief of staff, pretty much.
exactly right. Yeah. Or I
And
could be the CEO when needed. Yeah. But more or less president, GM, chief of staff.
so your niche by finding other people's niches and helping them figure out and help them work their way through the ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, typically they have a great idea and they're very good technologists or evangelists. But when it gets to the day-to-day grind of, opening the office and finding the money and whatnot, they don't want to be doing that. It just drags them down. So I said, well, I'll step in, basically help them do everything that they do not want to be doing.
That's
and it's worked
so
out
you
great.
found your product by doing that.
Exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. So then fast forward 30 years or less, a little less than 30 years. So you finally found your own little thing on Vector, what's on Vector?
So OnVector is my partner Dan Cho's company. It's
Okay.
been around for about 10 years, and we are in King of Prussia, and we have a product that is plasma lightning in flowing wastewater, and the plasma is used to do final destruction of all the nasties in wastewater. So organic compounds like ammonias or microbes or what's PFAS forever chemicals now, leachates. It goes on and on. So that's what
With
we've been doing.
plasma lightning.
Plasma
That's
lightning.
that's pretty
Absolutely.
cool. This
Yeah.
name plasma lightning sounds like, well, that's really cool. But
Yeah.
you're killing all the uglies, which are like, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I mean, but the interesting thing is, I had no experience in water tech or green tech or plasma. Before this, I was involved with software products and
Hmm.
beer and jet leasing. But all of those skills I gathered along that 30-year path led me to where I am today. And let me tell you, working with Dan and the team has been absolutely a wonderful experience.
That's awesome. So I'm sure because you have two kids, right?
That's correct. Yeah, Lily's in Penn State and Charlie's at high school.
Oh, so you saw a kid at home. Aye.
Yeah,
So, but that's the thing that kind of goes hand in hand is that you've had the freedom to go to those games, those football games, go to the soccer games, and be there for the kids, and not have to deal with the corporate ladder of working the 9, 10 o'clock at night thing. I mean,
this is exactly right. I get to design my own schedule, and I have to say that Carol, my wife, has been absolutely a saint allowing me to do this because as an entrepreneur, you have up and down years,
hmm
and she's brought, among other things, the healthcare benefits with her job and the various other things that we need to basically run the family.
it takes a very supportive partner, both on the business side in the business and also at home. So when you started doing this, were you hitched at the time when you started, or did you start off when you were a single man?
I was a single person, and I met Carol when I was about 5 years into doing this. So she kind
Oh,
of
so she
knew
knew
what
what
she
she
was
she
getting
knew what she
into.
yeah she knew what she was
Yeah,
getting into about.
yeah,
She's like, all
yeah.
right, this guy's an entrepreneur. Oh, I kind of like that. I'm sure it's kind of a little romantic. Like he has these big ideas and ambitions and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I keep looking at her and saying, I could not put up with your corporate job and all that goes with that. As you know, Seth, being an entrepreneur, it gives you a license to kind of pick and choose the people you want to be working with and finding the positive influences in your life
Hmm.
and telling the others to go away.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So you have two companies. You have your 30-year company, which what's it called again?
it's called Success Start, and I've been involved with over 50 startups. My full time day to day job is OnVector, the water company.
OnVector, the water company, which is
Yes,
which
yeah.
is I never thought that water, as we say in Philadelphia, could be so interesting. Because because I realize like it goes from you can't drink the stuff in the creek because you'll get giardia.
That's right.
So it has to get from point A to point B somehow, and it's always point A to point Z because I'm sure there's like or beyond Z because I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff in between, and then you're the last. You guys said you guys are the last mile essentially.
Final destruction of all the nasties. Yes, exactly right.
Is that the
Yeah.
technical term? Final destruction of all the nasty. I like that. That's a little tagline.
Well, I mean, as you know, water and climate have become a major issue in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And even with the desert and the drought and highly brine water, salty water,
Mm-hmm.
even desalination of ocean water, these are huge international issues. And a lot of companies nowadays are taking their wastewater and they're incinerating, they're burning wastewater, which absolutely does not make any sense, and it's hugely energy intensive. It's,
Burning water. You
yes,
shouldn't be able to burn water. Right there means that there's something wrong with that water.
exactly right. Not only is there something wrong with that water, but also incinerating the water off it does not destroy the nasties.
No, it just evaporates them.
It turns it into an air pollution problem.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
yeah. So that's what we're doing is we're basically taking away all the ugly stuff out of water and breaking it down to its elemental components: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen. Yes.
That's wild. That
Yeah,
is absolutely freaking wild.
it's crazy. Yeah, it is.
So here's a question I ask a lot of people. What's the scariest thing about being an entrepreneur?
The ups and the downs. 100% of my work comes through referrals from friends and business associates through the Mid Atlantic. And at the beginning, it was tough because we're building our network, we're setting up the relationships and harvesting. And you know, in the last 15 or 20 years, it's been really wonderful. But the first 15 years was really a struggle. And I've also learned that doing what I do, uh, I need to have two or three businesses percolating along at the same time because
Ah.
they're all at different stages of the startup world. Some are ideation stages, still a napkin sketch. Some are, we're opening the office now. We need to go out and scramble for our minimum viable product or our first beachhead customer, and some are looking for investment or venture capital or whatever they're looking for. Yeah,
That's wild.
yeah.
But you went to school for computer science.
I have my master's in finance too from St.
Okay, so you went back
Yeah,
and
that's
got
my
some
whole
more.
part. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that, by the way.
So you went and got your master's in finance. Otherwise, it was like, well, look, I mean, I went to school for journalism for crying out loud, and I'm doing web design and podcasting. Podcasting is a little journalism. I get that part, but
Sure.
like, but literally, I business acumen. You have to learn it on the job. I mean, how much of the schooling that you went through? I mean, I'm sure that it's good background, but how much of it is just like learning on the job, learning on the fly versus, oh, I read that in a book.
So at Drexel and St. Joe's, they very much taught you how to learn and what to focus on, what not to focus on. And in business school, this is the early 90s, late 80s. So it's all about writing the business plan and the financial model. But frankly, today, a lot of people don't even write business plans. They'll 30 or 60 page document. They'll write a 10-page overview. And frankly, that's good enough. So
Yeah.
it's really changed with PowerPoint presentations and financial modeling and understanding what your investors are looking for and how to communicate your message to them that is a match. So
Wow.
that's learning on the job. Absolutely. Yeah. Part of my job is learning when you can pretend to be a lawyer, basic contract stuff, or when to actually engage your lawyer and pay her, five, $10, $20,000 to do her lawyer thing when it's in the best interest
Needed.
of everybody involved. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sure the initial contracts, the initial emails, you don't need a lawyer. But I'm sure like what you've experienced over the past 30 years is that there's definitely a point where it's like, this is above my pay grade. Like, this is something I need to get Donna in. I need to get Joe, Bob, and Steve in here on this because this is something that I need someone who got their JD and like knows their stuff.
Absolutely, that's correct. Yeah, I have to tell you about OnVector, the water company.
Yeah.
I've learned the hard way in the last 5 years working with Dan that I've known a ton of investors. I used to be an angel investor. I know venture capitalists, and working with the water companies told me to focus only on those venture investors or partners that understand the core business. So I don't have to go into a presentation and spend the first hour teaching them about the water
Hmm.
industry and then the last half hour showing them financial return. If they're all coming in and they understand water, we're already on second base. It's a
Which is
great
good, which is
conversation.
good.
Yeah.
So it's a little more. I guess you would say that's a little bit more challenging because you got to find the people that know what the heck they're talking about.
Exactly right. I mean, there's a ton of investors in green tech and clean tech, as you well know. And,
Hmm.
if you're designing a website to do data captures or some kind of green thing or networking thing, it's very easy to understand that. But we're dealing with plasma physics, and you need a postdoctorate to understand plasma physics. Everybody has a basic understanding about water and the value of having
Hmm.
clean water. So
Absolutely.
we need to find those people that are receptive to our message. And I'm telling that to every entrepreneur I'm working with today that's in sports packaging or furniture moving or whatever they're in. Find the people that are in your tribe.
And go that avenue. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Well, Joe, this has been fantastic, and everyone go network with Joe on LinkedIn. He's full of information, very accessible, very friendly, outgoing, great guy, and we will see you next time. That was a great show. Hey, if you're enjoying Entrepreneurs Enigma, please give us a review on the podcast directory of your choice. We're on all of them. And these reviews really help others find the show. Also, if you're getting value from the show and want to buy me a coffee, go to the show notes and click on the link to help me stay awake while I bring you more great episodes to your ears. That's in the show notes, and I look forward to the next episode. Take care, guys.
You may know you're listening to this show along the Marketing Podcast Network, but did you know there are other great shows on MPN to help your business? Lacey Boggs hosts and produces a great podcast called Ace Stone Marketing Detective. Little bit different than your normal podcast on MPN. Lacey, tell us what these fine folks will get when they listen.
Ace Stone Marketing Detective is a fully scripted and produced fictional radio play that follows crack marketing detective Ace Stone as she bamboozles the bad guys and detects dastardly deeds in the marketing industry. The podcast is a funny, tongue-in-cheek look at content marketing, shady marketers, and suspicious marketing techniques online. And I think it's a fun new way to have a business podcast that proves that marketing can be playful and effective.
Where can people subscribe to this thing?
You can go to acemarketingdetective.com or find it in your favorite podcast player or go to the Marketing Podcast Network.
You heard her. Go subscribe. This podcast is heard along the Marketing Podcast Network. For more great marketing podcasts, visit marketingpodcasts.net.